Hello, my name is Connor Quinlan, and in this review I'm going to be talking about large prints and how megapixels affect those large prints. First of all, I'm going to go over the megapixel myth, which a lot of you might not know. Megapixel myth is that the more megapixels you have, the better the print is going to be. Well, that's true in some cases, but for most people that's not necessarily true. Most people actually print images that are 8 by 10 or at max 13 by 19 inches. Now you might think 13 by 19 inches is pretty large, but actually it's not that large when it comes to megapixels. D60, which is a 6 megapixel camera, could actually print out a very sharp 20 by 30 inch picture. And then a d300, which is a 12 megapixel camera, can easily print out a 45 by 30 inch picture, which is bigger than most people will ever plan on printing. Even a 2 megapixel camera will print out a very good 8 by 10 image at least. So the point I'm trying to get across basically is you don't need a ton of megapixels to make most prints. Well, there are those landscape photographers out there who usually print out 45 by 30 inch prints normally, and for people like those, they might want to get something like the Canon 5D Mark II, which is a 21 megapixel camera, so that they can go more detail in their images. But for most people, 6 megapixels is actually plenty of megapixels. So when it comes to buying a camera, megapixels is not necessarily what you want to look at. Instead, you want to be looking at the other things a digital camera has to offer, like speed, autofocus, build, durability, menus and features, things like that that the camera offers instead of megapixels. Just to show you how big a picture you can get with some digital SLRs, I printed out a 12 megapixel print with my D300 that's 45 by 30 inches wide. Now most people wouldn't think that a 12 megapixel camera could make such a sharp print, but it is a very sharp print. Just from 2 feet away, it looks very sharp and perfect for any type of gallery. Now one thing you have to realize, of course, though, is that even though these pictures are sharp from about 2 feet away, a D60 or D40 print at 30 by 20 inches will not be perfectly sharp if you're really up close to the picture like this looking at it. Of course it's not going to be sharp if you're that close to it. It's going to be very soft, and you'll probably even be able to see even the pixels. Even on this 45 by 30 inch picture that I took with my D300, you can see each individual pixel if you get close enough. But just step back 2 feet and it looks really sharp. Now you're probably thinking, well, if the 6 megapixel or 12 megapixel camera can print out such large images, then what use is the Canon 5D Mark II? Well, you don't necessarily need to think of it that way. The D300 and the D40 can print out big pictures that look reasonably good. But if you're printing out large prints all the time, then you definitely might want to consider a camera like the Canon 5D Mark II, which will offer you more detail and a lot more sharpness, much worthy for gallery prints or for other clients that you might be selling the photo to. Now, if you're really serious about landscape photography and you print out really large images in the future, for say, then something like a medium or large format camera will definitely give you a lot more resolution than any digital camera of this age will. A medium format camera alone can give you a 50 megapixel scan, which is huge. You can print out massive pictures with that. And then a large format camera will give you 100 megapixel scans. You can print out huge 60 by 45 or even 100 inch prints with that and get really good resolution. And then if you print that out like 45 by 30, you're definitely going to get a picture that's sharp even with your nose up close to it. Now we're going to take a close look at the print I made with the D300. This print once again is 45 by 30 inches just to see how much detail that gave me. So you can see from far back we're about 3 feet back from the print right now. It looks pretty sharp, pretty detailed. Now we're going to get a little up close to look very closely at those details. Alright, now we're pretty close to the camera, we're pretty close to the image. You can see by searching around that it actually does look pretty good, even this close. It's not perfect, it is a little soft, and you can definitely see some of the megapixels if you get even closer. But altogether, it's really not that bad. And this is definitely gallery worthy. So once again, if you're a person who prints out maybe 1, 2, or 3 of these a year, then something like the D300 or even the D40 will really give you good resolution for these large prints. However, if you do print these pictures like this out regularly, Canon 5D Mark II or Canon DS Mark III is definitely a camera to consider.